Hello and welcome to Your Exceptional Life. Hope you've had a wonderful week. Episode 34 today. It's all about planning, productivity, as I take you through the 8 areas of life with a real planning focus. Thanks to everyone for your feedback. Episode 33, 32, and this is the third time I think that we've done Your Exceptional Life in this reflective manner. Today though, I'm putting a real theme into it, and again, that is this theme of productivity. I was at my favourite cafe table view during the week. I think it might have been Tuesday or Wednesday, and I was feverishly planning my day or my week. I've been doing a lot of planning this week, and one of my friends, Bev, who I see at Table View quite regularly, was somewhat interested in the level of detail of my planning, and it looks like a very scribbly piece of paper, and I'll share that with you over the course of this podcast. But here's the deal. Bev and I got into talking, as we tend to do, about the deep and meaningful reasons of any topic, and in this case it was planning. And I shared, I don't know if I shared it with Bev, but it's something I share a lot in my talks, this quote from Alfred Hitchcock, and I really want to take this quote through each of the areas of our life on this podcast. Hitchcock's quote was, to make a great film you need 3 things: a great script, and a great script. And really, the way I live my life and the way the message that I share with people is, if you want to live your exceptional life, it requires 3 things: a great script, and a great script. And for me, this is my script for a day. Now, again, this is yesterday's day, so it's scribbly and it's been crossed out, and there were things that weren't crossed out, and it's got highlighters and markings and all the rest of it. But if you look at any great script, it is constantly refined, it is constantly crossed out, there are new things added to it, and it may look like a mess to someone else, but to the person who's writing the script, it's actually incredibly well organized. If you're a female watching this, you could have the messiest room ever, but you actually know where every single piece belongs in that room, and you know exactly, even if it's a mess, you know where to find everything. And again, I say this having grown up with 2 sisters that could justify to our mum every single reason why the room looked the way it was. It's like, I know where it is. Look, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you feel good about it. So I want to take you through each of the 8 areas this week from a real planning perspective. If this is a big area of growth for you, I'm going to suggest, after you've listened to this episode, if you really want to get clear on the 8 areas of your life and you really want to make planning and productivity a big focus for you, my most popular short course, it's a free program, it's been done by people in over 60 countries worldwide, is called Mediocre to Magnificent. It's about 1 hour, it's completely free, it's an insight into some work I did with my mastery clients at a retreat called Life, Purpose and Spiritual Mastery. We recorded these videos shortly after doing the work together, and it's with Audra, Jody and Wendy, and we go through a goal planning process in the 8 areas of life. And so if that's something that is really important to you, particularly because you don't have it at the moment, click the link in the show notes or go to, I think it's marcuspearce.com.au/follow-up. Just remember follow-up, my name at follow-up, /follow-up, and you'll get free access to the Mediocre to Magnificent program. So, life purpose, planning. I've mentioned the script, I've mentioned Hitchcock's quote, but the way I tend to plan is work in a bunch of projects at a time. So, this week, it's the early stages of September. I did not plan, normally I would plan my month, saying the last week of the preceding month, but that didn't happen this time. So this week I was outlining a number of outcomes I wanted to achieve in September. When I was doing this, I was looking at my outcomes for the year, for 2017. I was going, you know what? Some of them aren't congruent anymore. Either they're definitely not going to happen. They're not as important to me now as they were, say, at the beginning of the year. So I went through a process of refining my goals for the year in each of the 8 areas of life. It's amazing what you think in January, and then say you look at September. And you go, really? That's what I was thinking in January? Some of my outcomes, particularly in movement, it was like I had like 12 or 15 things, and I think I just kind of noted it down rather than really going, well, what is the number one thing? But as you know, if you've heard me talk about this, you know, push-ups for me is a massive focus at the moment. And in January, I had no idea that would be a focus. And so I will get onto that point of having some spontaneity and flexibility shortly. But I think with life purpose, the key is not to have too many too many steps. As again, I've got 3 projects this week. It was all about, as I got my notes here, for memory. It's hard for me to remember yesterday, let alone a few days ago. But my focuses this week have been the Wellness Couch. We're putting together our events calendar for 2018. Watch this space, those of you who are lovers of the Wellness Couch and our events, the Wellness Summit and more. Get ready for a big 2018. So that's been a big focus of the week. I'm doing a fair bit of work in upgrading my online programs. And also this week seemed to be a big week for mentoring clients. So there's a lot of work at the moment. Again, if people were into the lunar, well, I know it was a full moon this week because Sarah's telling me the kids are going a little bit batty, and it was all about the full moon. With adults, there was a lot of people wanting support this week, and so I found myself on more mentoring calls this week than normal, and so they were really the 3 big chunks of the week. And in saying that, if you've never had a mentoring call with me, or you're looking for a mentor and you would like to know what it's like to do mentoring with me, every now and again I do put aside 15-minute free calls. So I'll put a link in the show notes if you want a 15-minute strategy session with me. I just generally tend to put aside time in my week. I have a calendar set up. Click the link, see if there's any spots available, and if there are, again, you know how much I love chatting to people. If we've never met and you'd like to see how it works to do some strategic mentoring with me, book in a call, and if there's something free, let's have a chat. Again, I'll pop that in the show notes. So, movement. Let me share with you movement. Movement is all about habits. So from a planning perspective, movement for me is still very, well, the push-ups is still very novel. It's probably been 6 weeks in, but anything that is novel, in my view, must be written down, because if you want to do something that you don't normally do, your brain has a hard time remembering to do it. Okay, and I could do a whole podcast. I could do multiple podcasts on anxiety and guilt. But in a couple of sentences, if you don't write your day down, if you don't write your script, not just for your life, but let's just get small and talk for your day. If you don't write down your script for a day, here's what I know. You get anxious about the things that you have to do that are buzzing around in your head. And then at the end of the day, you get guilty at the things that you didn't do. And planning then is the antidote to feeling high levels of anxiety and high levels of guilt. I'll just say it right now, I hardly get anxious. It'd be very rare for me to get anxious, very rare for me to feel guilty. And I'm not saying it to gloat, it's definitely been practice, but the more I plan, the less anxious I feel and the less guilty I feel. I know a lot of people, when we do our annual Wellness Summit events for 1,000 people, and people are emailing me or calling me and going, I'm really sorry to be calling you or emailing you. I'm sure you're just, so stressed at the moment. I'm like, I'm not stressed. I don't want to tell you that you have to be stressed. We live in such a 2017 world where we feel like we have to be busy or we have to be stressed, and if we're not, like there's something wrong. Our need for significance in many ways, which is very much an ego-driven need, seems to be tied into the fact of, are we busy? And if we're busy, then we should be anxious. And if we're not busy, then we should be guilty for not being busy. Anyway, don't get me started. It's another podcast for another day, and it's probably even more a deep and meaningful dinner party conversation. So planning, getting back to the point here, I don't expect you to be able to read my writing, but at the top there it says 5 a.m. club. I'll even put on the other video, see if that works. 5 a.m. club. 5 a.m. club says 5 a.m. times 400 words, writing my book, 400 words at a time. 6 a.m. exercise, and then on different days I've got different push-up sets, but this is a Thursday. Today's Friday when I'm recording this. This is push-ups, 82 times 5. So I do 82 push-ups 5 times, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 written next to it, and then every time I do those 82, I cross it out. And by the end of the day, come about 5 o'clock, when I've just done my 5th set of 82 push-ups, I cross it out. And there is an endorphin rush that you receive when you cross stuff out. And for those people that like to write their days down, whether it's a simple to-do list or you do it, I do the Tony Robbins RPM, or you might do the Danielle Laporte or the Passion Planner, or however you plan your day, there is an endorphin rush from the cross out. Now, you don't get to do the cross out when it's all in your head, okay? And again, you can often feel guilty for forgetting things or not getting things done, anxious about all the things that are just repeating. I highly recommend that you write it down, particularly if it's not an ingrained habit. Now, for me, getting up at 5 o'clock, even though it's been part of my life for the last, whatever it is, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, it's still something I want to write down because I still get a rush from going, I got up at 5 o'clock today. I got up at 5 o'clock today. That's the kind of stuff that I think is really important to bring into your life. Make yourself feel good about the stuff that you're doing. I'm just going to play a couple little videos whilst I talk about this because it's beautiful weather up here. The movement has been very much push-ups, running down the beach and doing some yoga. I've put the yoga that I've done this week into the show notes. I want to talk to you about planning and spontaneity, and this connects into social life because I had a wonderful experience this week down at Tableview. Now, again, if you're ever looking for me, you're probably gathering that I spend a fair bit of time down at Tableview. It is my second home. Naturally, definitely, if you ask me where do I spend the most time out of the house, it is down at Tableview. So I think it's Tuesday morning. And I go down and get my coffee, and for any number of reasons, Brunswick Heads, which is a sleepy little fishing village in the Byron Shire, is absolutely pumping. You would have thought it was a public holiday or a weekend. Anyway, I get to Tableview. There's no tables there. There's no seats. So I plan then. I go, all right, well, I'll go to the library. I'll order my coffee, and then I'll go to the library. And it's about a 15-minute wait for my coffee, and I'm like, oh, like I'm productive. It's, probably 8:30, 8:45. I'm like, come on. Like, this is when I'm on fire. Anyway, so I order my coffee, and then I realize there that a friend of mine, Callie, is there with her twin sister, her young son, Leo, and we get chatting. And then Callie, and I'm so sorry, Callie's sister, just blanking on the name, but Callie's sister, Leo, are all chatting to a couple from Melbourne whose names are Kim and Rob, and they get chatting, and then I start chatting with them, and then we all start chatting, and then it's a really good chat. We're just chatting like we know each other. We're actually getting to know each other. I find out that Rob, who is a hairdresser, a barber, you can't call a man a hairdresser these days. Well, I don't know. Anyway. Spare me on the political correctness. Rob is a barber, and he cuts the hair of Simon Goodwin, who is the coach of Melbourne. I brag for Melbourne. Rob's a mad Richmond man. We get talking about the football. I'm like, this is great. And it got to the point where I didn't want my coffee to arrive because I was really enjoying the conversations with the girls and with Rob, and we were all having a chat, and I loved it. And it just got me thinking, you know what? Thank God there is some spontaneity in my planning, in my day, in my lifestyle, and isn't it great that I love where I live? And I've done a podcast with Damien Christoph before on 100 Not Out called Loving Where You Live. Damo is your quintessential Melbourneite. He loves Melbourne. He's just, everything about Damo oozes Melbourne, and he's a walking, talking ticket holder for living in Melbourne. I love living up here. I'm a walking, talking ticket holder for living in the Byron Shire. But the key is, do you love where you live? Do you love meeting new people in your community? Do you love engaging with people? If you don't really love engaging with people, then I'm going to say you don't really love where you live. You might love parts of where you live, like the natural environment or the weather or whatever. But if you don't like going down the street and bumping into people or making new friends, then, I'd probably consider you either change your attitude or you change your behaviour in that you behave and move somewhere else, change your location, or change your perception around getting to make new friends in your community. Again, podcast for another day. I could bang on and on about the health benefits of this. Read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Listen to the story of Roseto, Pennsylvania, where essentially their social life and their community atmosphere was the preventative factor in them not getting heart disease. When heart disease was sweeping through America, Roseto, Pennsylvania was essentially immune to it because of the strength of their social culture. So just be mindful. I've put a link to the show notes. I've put a link in the show notes to that episode that I did with Damo on 100 Not Out. Be mindful though, it's a very powerful episode. We have had, I know one particular family who I'm not going to name for privacy reasons, but the podcast had such a profound impact on this family that they relocated from New South Wales to Queensland, and best decision they've ever made. But it was literally that podcast that planted the seed. All right, don't have it on me. It's over. It's getting washed. Nutrition. Just to play another little video whilst I talk about this. Now, nutrition. There was Plastic Free July. I don't know if you have it where you live, but up here in the Byron Shire, Plastic Free July was massive. And it got me thinking about my own I suppose just environmental behaviour. I'd go to the market and they'd be serving, you'd be getting your vegetables in paper bags rather than plastic bags, and then then the conversation came up around coffee cups. And you know me, Table View, almond latte, at least one a day, but probably averages out to maybe 10 a week, just for numbers. And so during this Plastic Free July, there was a massive awareness campaign around landfill and disposable coffee cups and all the rest of it. And so I'm not a big greenie, for want of a better term. I'm not massive on the environmental stuff. I have great respect for it, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's no problem. It just doesn't pulse in my veins, like Exceptional Living does. So I got my common sense hat on and I started crunching the numbers, as I like to do, and it worked out that I'm on say 10 disposable coffee cups a week, which is about 500 a year, over 500 a year. It's about 5,000 a decade. So then I make it visual and I start Googling pictures of what that looks like, and I might have some here. There you go, there's one in Sydney. I don't know how many are in there, but there's a lot. So this was a campaign done in Sydney. I think that's at Wyndham train station perhaps. But the awareness is there. And so I kept on thinking to myself over and over again, I'm going to get one of those glass, sipper cups, because I never got it in a takeaway. I can't stand having a latte. Sorry, I always got it in a takeaway. I can't stand having a latte in a glass because it goes in like 3 minutes. And I will take it a good half an hour to have my latte when I'm having it out of the little sipper on the top. So it's ridiculous how refined our coffee habits have become. So anyway, I then decided that I would get one. But it never happened. Table View had run out, and I just never ended up getting one. So then for Father's Day on Sunday, and I never even told Sarah about it, but did I put a picture up there? I did. Great. Sarah got me one. There it is. I took that photo this morning before I came home to record this. So now, since Father's Day, I've had my own glass coffee sipper cup. So now, instead of my mantra being phone, keys, wallet, men out there, when you're leaving their house, phone, keys, wallet, phone, wallet, keys, phone, wallet, keys, phone, wallet, keys, phone, wallet, keys, until you've got your phone, your wallet, and your keys, and then you can walk out the door safely. Now it's phone, wallet, keys, coffee cup. Phone, wallet, keys, coffee cup. So that I do my bit for the environment, get to have my coffee out of the little sipper, and I haven't forgotten it this week. 1 week down, I've taken it with me every single time. So just something for you to consider on the nutrition front. Not telling you to. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to do and what you should do. It's just something that had an impact on me. Love and relationships. This is a good one. Again, wonderful times on Father's Day. The family took me down to Wadigo's for a barbecue breakfast. That is, if you're ever up here in Byron and you're doing the whole self-catering thing, I highly recommend you get some bacon, you get some eggs, and whatever else you like to have for breakfast. Go down to Wadigo's, get down there for about 7 o'clock in the morning, so you've got a clean barbecue and no one else there that you got to light up in behind, and make yourself a breakfast. And depending on what time you're there, you might be seeing the whales or the dolphins or the surfers, and then after you have a bit of breakfast, go and do the lighthouse climb. It's just a wonderful experience. So that was the Father's Day at the Pierce household, and that's where I got my coffee cup, and I got a massage as well, which I'm going to later on today, which I'm pumped for. But quality time like that has been wonderful on the weekends. We're having a wonderful time at Pierce HQ on the weekend front. The weeknight front, Sarah Bear and I, to put it mildly, is suffering quite a bit. We are in the thick of our life at the moment, where kids, to be quite honest, Sarah is just knackered at the end of the day. And so to stay up for another half an hour with a cup of tea and have the chats that we were probably having 3 or 6 months ago on a daily basis just hasn't happened as regularly. I mean, I think even last night or the night before, I think I had the tea done, the chamomile was brewing, and Sarah came out from the shower, I think, and she's like, babe, I'm so tired, I really just think I'm going to go to bed. And you know what, you can tell, if you've ever seen Sarah when she's tired, the eyes are glazed, there's a little bit of bloodshot in there, and you know what, you don't want to put her through the pain of sitting up to have a chat, so go to bed. Just go to bed. And I say that because in all however way you want to put it, we are paying right now the price for the choices that we have made in our family. And I think this is really, really important. The way that we raise our kids is not the way that others would raise their kids, which is not the way that others raise their kids. And no matter what anyone says, in my view, as a selfish Leo first child, you raise your children how you want to raise your children. But whatever you do, whether it's raising children or choosing a job or starting a business or the friends you hang out with, you must also be prepared to pay the consequences of your decision. In any walk of life, there is the term, which I don't know where I learned it from, but whatever decision you make is always going to bring with it an SHIT sandwich. Whatever it is, whatever decision you make, there's always a sandwich that has that in it. The key is you must choose what type of sandwich you're going to have, because there's always going to be something that has SHIT in it. So in our form, we've got a wonderful family and all the rest of it, but we're very hands-on, and it means that it's more intensive, there's more energy and all the rest of it. If you're an entrepreneur, the SHIT sandwich is, what did someone say the other day? Daniel Gibbs, who I met at the mastermind a couple of weeks ago, was talking about, entrepreneurs create a life. What is it? Oh, something about creating a life where you can work any 16-hour day that you choose, or choose any 16 hours in the day that you want to work. It's like, because it's not a 9-to-5 gig. The SHIT sandwich is that you are working bigger hours and you have the flexibility to choose any of the 24 hours that you work in. Anyway, it's kind of hanging it on the choices that we make. But it's true. Whatever decision you make, whether it's family or work or friends, there will be a challenge that comes up. But coming back to the script that you write for your life, when you consciously choose your challenges, or when you consciously make your choices, then you're really consciously choosing your challenges. And if you can write down the challenges that you will face as you go down the path of living your exceptional life, they're so much easier to deal with. Like, whenever anyone says, "How you going, Marcus?" or "How's the family?" I go, "Look, like, we're knackered, but nothing's wrong. We're just tired. No one's dying. No one's sick. It's just a full-on time," and that's the decision that we made. And so there's every chance we'll have 4 kids. It's not a logical decision. It's a completely irrational decision. But that's just what we feel will probably happen in our family. And that's the SHIT sandwich that we will eat at some point, because we know that every wonderful decision that you make, we make, you make, I make, whatever it is, has a wonderful benefit as well. But it's having the consciousness that whatever decision you make, if it's to go on a diet to lose 10 kilos, well, the SHIT sandwich is you don't get to eat sandwiches, right? But here's the deal. Whatever decision you make it very consciously. Write the script, or else the script writes you, and you feel very disempowered. All right. Growth. Just a short one this week. Listen to a wonderful episode from Up for a Chat, all about what happens when you do all the right things and it still doesn't work out, which I think in the theme of this week's episode is really important. I love listening to Cindy, Kim and Karen. They were answering a listener's question. The question from the listener was, I was planning to get pregnant. For 12 months before I fell pregnant, I did all the right things, did this whole preconception, healthcare, detoxes, all the rest of it. I even started blogging about it, and then I did fall pregnant and I shared that journey, and then I had a miscarriage at 11 weeks. And it was kind of like, I felt like I failed. I was incongruent. I didn't want to share that because I've been telling everyone what the right thing to do was. And, the girls were naturally sharing, well, that's part of the journey as well. Don't make the world seem so one-sided. That's a wonderful growth opportunity. So I really enjoyed listening to that podcast, and I reckon if you feel like you're meant to be writing a one-sided script for your life and you do the right things and then SHIT happens, well, I think this episode of Up for a Chat, I think it's number 247, it's a wonderful episode. So I'll link that in the show notes. Go have a listen. And if you've got questions that you'd like answered on this podcast, again, hit me up, marcus@marcuspearce.com.au, on social media @marcusdpearce. Any questions that you have in each of these 8 areas of life, whatever you like, be more than happy to answer them for you on this podcast. Wealth, big focus for wealth at the moment continues to be, it's a bit like exercise, it's writing down new behaviors and crossing it off, and that is regularly checking in with the financial statements of Pierce HQ. So when I talk about financial statements, it's assets, liabilities, income, expenses, ALIE. If you've read wealth books, or you have some financial literacy about you would be familiar with the whole ALIE, knowing how much not just your income is, but your expenses, how big that is, that budgeting, and then knowing what assets, the value of your assets, and the value of your expenses. And when I say value, how much you owe, your liabilities. It's just so much easier to make decisions when you have clarity. So that's the big focus. I can't recommend reading the books, getting empowered about money, particularly if you are that shoebox statistic where all your receipts is just in a shoebox and you just don't want to look at it. Please rip that band-aid off and do it quick, smart, because your life and every other area of your life is so much better when you have clarity. No matter what your position is, when you've got clarity around your position, you just feel a whole lot better. And then lastly, soul, spirit, and faith. And again, this is one for planning for me. I've got to write it down. It goes in here. Gratitude and visualization is, it's got a PM next to it, somewhere at the bottom. Again, I don't expect you to read it. But my routine at night, I've got it here. I'm just going to share this, and I don't do it every night. Again, it's not a habit that's ingrained yet. This is a traction wedge, all right? So with sitting a lot, neck forward, I get on this traction wedge, and so I'm lying back, head's back like this, and then I play my favorite music from the shift, and I then have that playlist going on Spotify, which I'll put in the show notes. I lie back for 5 minutes. I do some gratitude, just thinking about my day, what I love, all the rest of it, and just the cool stuff, whether it's the butterfly out there, whether it's just where I live, my family, I just get all lovey-dovey about life. And then for 5 minutes after that, I do visualization, just what I'm looking forward to bringing into my life, whether it's on any list of my goals or just anything that I'm feeling an urge just to visualize, to write the script visually, make it a movie, just see it happening, moving it, make it a moving image, make it colorful, all the rest of it. I do that, and then I feel very zen and I go to bed. And that is a wonderful way to finish this episode of Your Exceptional Life. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. There are so many things happening in the Exceptional Life world, so please keep in touch with what I'm doing here, whether it's Ikaria 2018, whether it's doing that mediocre to magnificent 1 hour short course, whether it's just going through each of your 8 areas of life and creating your exceptional life blueprint one day at a time. More than anything from this episode, just start writing the script. Write the script from your day. You'll see in Mediocre to Magnificent how I do it in more detail, but please just go and start. Make some progress. Really get inspired to have high standards in each of the 8 areas of your life. And until next time, as always, continue to make the rest of your life the best of your life.